All right, we're live. Hey, friends, welcome back to the AI Academics Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Dr. Lennart Nacke. This is the show where my co-host Vugar Ibrahimov and I geek out about the latest AI developments without getting too scientific. We want to help you get the valuable. Oh, okay. I am hearing myself.
Is it echoing there?
I hear myself somewhere. Okay, now I'm not hearing myself anymore. It's always
Then
fun.
good.
Okay, where was I? We want to help you get the valuable AI insights and actionable strategies that actually matter. So grab a coffee, tune in, and let's chat about why AI isn't the job-stealing monster that everyone thinks it is. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get started. So, Vugar, what do we got today?
Hey, Leonard. Thank
Nice
you
that
for
you're here
today's.
again.
Yeah, it's really nice to be back with our regular sessions because I really missed it, and I am sorry
Been a
that
while.
mostly
Yeah.
because of me that we were not doing this. I
But you
think
got
we,
news? You're like getting to the end. Is that something you want to share already?
yes,
Maybe not.
I think
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of this year you can also call me doctor.
Ooh,
But
exciting. Yeah.
that was the thing that I was busy in a couple of last months, so that's done now.
Nice. Yeah.
But of course, during our today and also next sessions, I will definitely share my own experiments, my own expertise with different AI tools, what I have done, were they useful really, and I
Yeah.
think that they added some value, and I will definitely share them. Thank you for today's meeting. So what
Yeah.
we have, I think we have. Although we have something to talk, but we picked up some of them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the first thing that we want to discuss today is, and if you're following the AI news, you might have heard that, is that OpenAI came out with O3 Pro now for a little period in between there. Some of us were wondering what they're paying the extra $150, like a lot of dollars for, because O1 Pro was deprecated and O3 was just the normal version. And so they came out with O3 Pro and they came out with GPT 4.1, which means 4.5 is deprecated. And so, yeah, this whole version numbering thing is still confusing everyone here. But yeah, Vugar and I kind of played around with that a little bit, tried out 4.1 and the more creative, as they're saying, outputs. Still compared it to the new Claude thinking mode, and the updated Sonnet 4.0, I think, is still better when it comes to the creative output and the creative writing output. The 4.1 is definitely getting there, so it's getting much better. And O3 Pro, just, it feels interesting. It used to be that you do a deep research in O3 Pro and you get like everything you ever desired about a topic. But, and we'll talk about that in a second, some of the innovations from the competitors have actually really gnawed at that advantage of OpenAI. And so the interesting thing for us as academics is, of course, how good Gemini 2.5 got, and specifically with the deep research capabilities of Gemini 2.5, getting really, really good at finding a topic and doing a really great deep dive, right? So in 2.5, I think got updated twice this month already. So the weird thing with the Google stuff, you can follow this if you go to aistudio.google.com, where you get the raw version of this without the system prompt. If you want to play around with temperature and some of these other settings, and you can put in your own system prompt, so you get like a more raw version of this. So there you can see there's a drop down on the top right. So there you can see which model you're selecting, and you can see like the date number, like the flavor of the 2.5. Yeah, because 2.5 is the official number, but then there's usually like another number that makes that quite interesting. So that just something to keep in mind. What are your experiences with that? Are you still, enjoying the deep research from Google Gemini, or have you played around with the O3 models at all, Vugar?
Yeah, first of all, I think I have to mention this. I saw a lot of posts saying that these tools can now do PhD level deep dive research.
No,
They
that's
cannot.
not true. They cannot. Let's face
100%
it.
I can say
No,
that.
no.
Now they cannot PhD. So they cannot do even a one section of the PhD dissertation or thesis,
Yeah.
do a research for that. They cannot. So
Mhm.
that is a lie, I would say. So they can do research for I think for the regular users, like
Yeah.
you can, if you want to to know a little bit more about certain stuff. Yes, they
Mhm.
can find articles, they can find academic articles. If you ask them, they can for sure write this. Like we talked about, I think about also Manus, the Manus AI.
Yes.
Similarly,
Yeah.
what they do, they are very similar. This one, they claim that we do very deep dive research. No,
Okay.
it can does, but not PhD level.
I do think there's a thing to be said about the agentic AIs and Mana, specifically GenSpark, which came onto the scene pretty hard. And the annual subscription is currently, I think, about $100 less than Mana's. And so both of them are agentic AIs. So you have like the super agents that you can use, and you can actually get the agent to do stuff. So you can get it if you download GenSpark. GenSpark actually lets you download a browser. That's GenSpark AI, and you can, through instructions to that super agent, you can get the agent to do multiple things. So it can go off and it can download papers for you, and it can become really useful. So it can really go into this process of drafting a paper, like drafting, right? Like, and go into outlining a paper, and that's pretty good. That's probably even better than deep research, because let's face it, deep research is also just kind of an agentic version of the original AIs, right? Like, it's just like several queries that are running there. So I think that's definitely an interesting step, and that's kind of the way to super intelligence and everything. That's kind of what we're seeing happening. But I think you're right. Like, in terms of quality, we're not quite at the level of quality yet, and that's very interesting. Specifically when there's a lot of marketing speak around that, and a lot of companies obviously trying to sell the products to you, is like how good they are, and like how useful this all is in terms of AI stuff, and research capability that you do. And it's also something that we talked about a while ago, but we're currently working on updating that when we were chatting about our AI research tools webinar, right? Like, and as these tools develop, we obviously we have to update these ideas and things that are in there.
Actually, the evolution is very fast. All of them, even the interface of the old tools, change very fast. They add, they remove something.
Yeah.
But I think what we have with the ChatGPT, the deep research, I think it is now we have an option to upload our document at the same time. Previously, you can, when you do deep research, you couldn't upload your own documents, and you just rely on the document that ChatGPT finds from internet. And in most of the cases, it was failing to find. I think if you are doing the deep dive academic research, it was failing to find the all relevant papers. It cannot, basically, still cannot. But the good thing, they added this option. If you want to do deep dive research or deep research, then at the same time you can upload. I think it's a nice improvement there. In terms of the versions, I'm still confused about the names, the one or two they don't have, or three and or four. I think in the end they will just remove all of them and
Consolidate.
come
Are they
up,
gonna
consolidate like a Google Gemini. Yeah? On Google Gemini, that you just have two of them: the Flash and the reasoning. So the fast all around help and reasoning math code.
And so that's much better, like labeling it a Flash because it's the fast model, right? Like,
Yes.
and like, even the Claude versioning with Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus, like, it's pretty clear what does what. They got the small, the medium, and the large version of it. I think that's a much better naming scheme. But so what I was wondering, are you thinking that, like, even in terms of versions, are we going to go the Apple model? Apple announced Liquid Glass, and they also, the big announcement, obviously Apple has kind of exited the AI game a little bit right now, but the big announcement was actually that they said, hey, our versions are now the years, so maybe that's what's going to happen.
The upcoming year.
GPT 2 to 2026 or 2027 or something like that, right? So we get like all of these future versions. So maybe, at least Apple is leading the way there in terms of version control, or whatever becomes available there. It could be one of those things that we'll see. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this idea of going from agents to super agents, like this GenSpark idea, but also in terms of the agentic workflows. One of the things that has completely crushed it for me is the update that came in Perplexity, which introduced labs, right? So sure, it's nice to do deep research with O3 Pro, but for a fraction of the price, you could get an O3 model. And actually, even in GenSpark, you can select the O3 models as well, right? So you can, just for a fraction of the price, you can do it in either GenSpark or Perplexity. And what I like about Perplexity with the labs feature that they've introduced is essentially they have this agentic workflow now. And this is something I talked about in the UX masterclass. Maybe I could pop that in here, and if people are interested, they can check that out as well. But we had a masterclass that we were running where I actually talked about, hey, listen, what you can do now is you can have a workflow and you ask a question or ask how to do a task. You go into Perplexity Labs specifically, you wait for the 10 minutes it runs. So the labs thing runs for 10 minutes, it answers the task, and you ask for a complete step-by-step breakdown of how to do that task, and it will create like documents, markdown files, everything for you. It's like a really great instruction thing, which you can then enter into the custom project that you're building in Claude or in Gemini, if you're building a gem or something like that. And that will make that, a super interesting, super useful way of interacting with a custom project, because now you have step-by-step instructions for the LLM of how to complete a task. And Perplexity really goes deep when it comes into building that with this labs feature. So a really nice new life to building projects in any of the other LLMs is, and I think a lot of people are doing that. They're going to Perplexity first. They're getting like the deep dive, the insights and all of that stuff, the analysis, because it ties in so nicely with the results from the web. And then they're taking that as a very precise instruction manual or report that they can then feed to some of these other LLMs to do the custom projects and things like that. And that's
is it cool. Similar to what we have as a project in the Claude AI or the gems with the Google Gemini?
Yeah, so no, you have spaces in Perplexity, so you can do a space thing within Perplexity where you can create something like a project, and that's also possible to just keep doing it in Perplexity and just kind of stay in the same environment. But what I find, usually I want the really deep, detailed instructions, and then sometimes I want to get the context window of Gemini, so then I put those deep instructions into a gem, a custom gem that I can create, which is like a project, right? And then I have those custom instructions that break down all of the tasks and the templates that I have and really give me a very detailed output. And then if I did this now in AI Studio, you unfortunately can't do projects, but you still have the mega prompt that you have based on the Perplexity Labs thing. So you could feed that into AI Studio, and then in AI Studio, give it a bunch of context too, because you can upload like tons of PDFs and stuff like that. And then you can run it over that entire thing. And it gives you really powerful, detailed output, just kind of working within the AI Studio. And you can adjust the temperature if you need a little bit more creativity, or you need it to be a bit more conservative. And that's really blown my mind in terms of like what becomes possible when you're having these mega instructions, these mega prompts available that you can build with the help of Perplexity Labs. So this is like really, really cool key concept that has really changed my workflow with a lot of these apps that I've been really enjoying. Also, as you know, we all do that. Vugar posts about this on Medium all the time as well, where he kind of has these prompts that he's collected, right? Like I think everyone working with AI tools should have a list of prompts that they have saved somewhere that they can then fall back onto. Because then, like, even if a new LLM comes along, if you want to run it locally on your computer, you can put it there. And yeah, that all is super cool as well, so that you could get all of that sorted. Just a quick shout out to everyone that's joining us. Thanks so much for coming to the show. It's awesome that you're all here. And so that was that. Vugar, any thoughts on that?
Before jumping to our next point for today's session, so I see it says upload unlimited documents and images. How unlimited is it? Because I had problems with the projects on Claude AI and also on the ChatGPT when I tried to create my own project, because when you apply a bunch of documents, let's say more than 10 or something like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't cover all of it. It doesn't read all the PDFs, and it definitely miss, because I
Yeah.
know the files, I upload them, and it couldn't deliver the answer that I wanted it to. It does, and
Mhm.
therefore, how unlimited is this unlimited? For did you
Ye-
have experience with that?
Yeah, so I think this all boils down to the token window that you get from each of the different ones that you can select. So you can, by default, it'll select Sonar, which is the model that Perplexity has built in-house. You can also select the Claude 4.0 Sonnet. It usually updates just like the latest ones. You can get GPT 4.1, you can get Grok 3 Beta. But now, this is interesting, I think Perplexity does that by default. It will actually select whatever's like the highest in the ranking. So I think for me, it selected Gemini by default, the 0605 version, which is the newest one. And then you have Gemini's 2 million, whatever context window it is. And
Yes,
so
the
Gemini is the
1.5.
best. Exactly. Yeah.
1.5 has it.
2.5, actually. Yeah.
2.5
Yeah.
has 1 million.
Yeah.
I think that the 1.5 have 2 millions.
Okay. Okay. I got to look
So
that up.
there's
Okay.
yeah, because the recent one is doing the better reasoning, but
Yeah.
with less amount of uh, tokens.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's really interesting to kind of see that, and like being able to work through some of these different models. And yeah, of course, if you're using Claude, you'll have a different context window, so like it will get to that window much faster. It's definitely like Claude is the only one that I've actually experienced like running into the token context window, where it kind of says, okay, it's too much text now,
Yeah,
which is actually interesting, because like I think it should be much higher than it is, but maybe it has something to do with the system prompt as well that is taking some of that.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually surprised how often I run into that with Claude, even though the text output really can't be beat for some of the stuff that you're getting. But yeah, token window wise, nothing beats Gemini, and like working with Gemini, even like working in AI Studio directly with it and just going over a bunch of documents. I've actually managed to break it. What was that? I think it was, so like I wanted to find something in the EU Horizon grant document, which I don't know if you've ever seen. Some of these grant instruction documents are like hundreds and hundreds of pages, right? So they're massive. I was like doing the whole needle in a haystack thing, and I fed it like 3 or 4 of those, and it was, and like it should be able to handle them, but I actually got to the thing where it's just like it didn't give an error. It didn't run out of tokens or whatever. It just gave me an error message in terms of processing, as in like I cannot process your request at the moment. Where I'm just like, what? Like I'm not even at the context limit window here, and you're just like giving me that error.
Yeah, I think most of them
Yeah.
are not that unlimited as they claim, because,
Yeah.
and it is very problematic. Specifically, like I am in the legal field. If you upload in 100
Yeah.
or more than 100 pages a court judgment and want to ask about it,
Yeah.
now I cannot ask a question that it is. I would find better answers if I do this research by myself. I
Yeah.
am sure about it, because there's a high chance that it can miss some paragraphs, some points from that judgment, and I cannot rest assured that I have everything. I have full answer to my question. That's why. So
Mhm.
that's my general, the impression from all tools. And in my case, the Google's AI Studio is doing far better than ChatGPT's project, than also the project of the Claude AI. So they definitely miss a lot of stuff, a lot of parts of the PDF documents. So, but
Yeah.
I will definitely. I haven't tried the labs of the Perplexity. I will give it a try, and I will share my thoughts on it in our upcoming sessions for sure. I will do that.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you. Thank
lovely.
you for
It's
covering.
lovely as a first step. Like, Perplexity has completely replaced Google search for me. So it is definitely a great way to get started. And I think that's true for a lot of these things that build on top of the LLMs, like GenSpark as well, where you can then just select your favorite LLM to run the query with, and just let the agents do the work, and just kind of get through it. So that's, I think, and again, like what we always say, that's just getting started, and it's just going to get better and better and better. And we'll talk about that at the very end as well. But one of the other things I wanted to bring up today to you was also the big news of Disney suing MidJourney, right? Like some people might have seen that. There's been a lot of discussion about MidJourney appropriating artistic works as input, and that being, problematic. I do think that's problematic, like the way that these artworks are trained. But I think it's not just the training that's problematic. The thing that Disney is concerned about is that anyone can create Mickey Mouse images or Iron Man or like Marvel properties quite easily. You can get it to generate really cool Iron Man pictures that look just like the real thing, right? And then they're just like, hey, but that's our property. Like there's intellectual property here. So AI has been a little bit fuzzy on this thing, and so now Disney, with all its might and money, even though after recent flops on the box office, like maybe they're doing not that good, but maybe that's why they need to like be a little bit more concerned about getting some of this AI stuff sorted. But that'll be interesting to kind of see how that pans out. I think MidJourney is already struggling because ChatGPT really did a great update with the DALL-E update. The image generation capabilities are just now fantastic. You see it on LinkedIn all the time. People are posting comics, and like comics is the new viral thing on social media. Everyone generates these ChatGPT comics, and it's like pretty good, pretty easy. You still, in terms of accuracy, you still have Flux 1.1 Pro, which is much better. And then, of course, the Gemini version, I forgot the name right now. But yeah, so Google, of course, also updated theirs, Imagen, I think it was.
Yes.
That is also, pretty good when it comes to context adherence of the prompt. I think nothing beats Flux right now in terms of really adhering to the actual instructions of the prompt. But ChatGPT or DALL-E, I guess, in terms of artistic flavor, is just kind of really kicking the butt of a lot of these tools. So that's really interesting to kind of see how that has kind of switched around.
This is really interesting one, and I think most probably Disney will win this one, because it's here is not about training data, which we will come to that where the Anthropic trained
IP, right? Yeah.
Yes. Anthropic trained its LLM, but that was a different case. But I think this case should be distinguished from that one, because here you generate almost the exact copies of the intellectual property of the Disney, and that is forbidden.
Yeah,
but
they might actually win that one, right? Like
most probably they will win this one.
Probably
they will win, but I think we discussed this one where the judge decided in favor of the Anthropic. That is a different case, because there it's not about the reproduction. There the judge said it's about the training without reproducing anything similar. So that
agree.
Yes, I think that is the point where I think the judge still could be, we can discuss whether it is because even the Anthropic trained their data based on the pirated 7 million books, which is also
that's something we got to talk about too.
Yes, that is also intellectual property of someone.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think it's interesting because like Monica put this in the chat here saying, are there any rules or legal SOPs for using AI specifically for academic purposes? I think there's a lot of guidelines right now and like people working on guidelines, but legally, I think that's a really interesting area to go into, because this is actually a thing I wanted to talk about, maybe in context of this lawsuit from Anthropic, because you might have heard that Anthropic recently just had a major win on that area, because they had a lawsuit about using content from books to train their AI, and they just the judge just kind of ruled in their favor, saying that it is okay to use it was 7 billion pirated books, I think, was a lot of pirated books that they used to train their AI. And then, court ruling goes, it's okay to use that knowledge to train your book. So and this is an interesting, I think I thought a lot about in terms of like how these LLMs are trained, because at the end of the day, this is kind of how we train researchers as well, right? Like we get them to read stuff. So in this case, you get the robot to read stuff, or the artificial intelligence to read stuff. Robot's not a good way to describe this, but it's also interesting because it relates to this concept of the death of the author, right? Like, which is very common in arts, in the humanities, in those areas. I just had a talk with my research manager about that, and she actually brought that up, that there is kind of something that is going on here, that the concept actually will survive the author. We're on this planet for maybe 100 years if we're lucky.
It's
maybe
usually 75 years after the
usually
death
exactly.
after the death of the author.
And then so then the thing kind of disappears. But sometimes authors get attached to things, like Marcus Aurelius gets attached to Stoicism, but Stoicism essentially survives just Marcus Aurelius. So Ryan Holiday can hijack it, so can other modern people, and then they become attached to that concept, even though the concept is ages old, right? So this is a really, really interesting thing to keep in mind when it comes to that. I think Monica just commented on that. I don't know how much AI will help in customization in legal field and healthcare treatments with infinite permutation combinations while treatment and while giving judgments, as there are some intangible aspects of which AI may be unknown. So that's really interesting, because so you can maybe not 100% determine the origin and the sources, and it becomes really difficult. Just like if somebody learns something, again, concepts usually survive the source. As academics, we're feeling particularly sensitive about that, because we're very used to citing sources and like giving credit and giving sort of this feedback of like what's actually been created. But we're kind of entering an era where this all kind of becomes a little bit in this blended space. My colleagues in industry, for them, it's been like that for a long time. There's so many people that talk about flow without attributing it to Csikszentmihalyi, which is the person that actually came up with that concept. But they'll just talk about flow, or flow in games, and like flow, or this thing about flow. And then, it doesn't necessarily get credited to the author, but the concept itself survives and stands, and people just kind of, move forward with the concept itself. So it's an interesting thing that's happening there in terms of shift of knowledge. And, as a society, I guess we kind of have to decide, like what's more important, the attribution or the advancement of the knowledge. And where does this lead us to as humans as well, which kind of touches on that last thing that we wanted to talk about, which was Jeffrey Hinton's interview on Diary of a CEO, where he kind of talked about the future of AI and like, where does this all lead us, and did a strong call for more philosophers and more safe AI. I think it's kind of in line with what Reza posted here, where he said, what did he say? Let's see if I can find that. I think he said something like, we need more responsible AI and AI in ethics. So I think a lot of the times this is really something that we need to pay better attention to, that, we do need to have ethics here. This is also something echoed by Gaurav here, who says Nokia Bell Labs and Japanese researchers have been mainly working on ethical and responsible AI. So I think that is super important, that, we kind of put that in the foreground.
And I can comment on the professor, I think Dr. Monica Suris. Monica's comment is a really good one, in terms of health and legal areas. In legal field, I can say that even without AI, no professional lawyer could say that I am 100% sure about the outcome of this case, so about the judgment of the case, even without AI. Now add that the combination of AI, this permutation, this all elements considering. But I think AI will be, maybe not 100% sure, but I expect that AI will be doing better predictions than usual lawyers or than usual doctors.
Agree.
In respective fields. I mean, the ordinary, the mediocre level professionals. I mean, I already read some articles in the health field saying that AI is doing better than the real doctors to define, to predict the problematic areas in different parts of the bodies. But let's see how it will turn out. I think But
Yeah.
I saw one comment saying why no one is mentioning about the notebook.
Notebook game. Yeah.
We
Because
will cover it. We will cover it. We
it's
know.
actually
Yeah.
no. You know what the answer to that is? Let me just put that in here. When people say Notebook LM, in the future version of AI research tools, we will cover Notebook LM. So this is something
For sure.
that will come up when we do our webinar again, which we will do in the future. We're already working on edition number 2. For the time being, you can of course check it out here. But yeah, this tool related stuff we definitely talk about in there. So this is not necessarily something we got here, but one of the things is we got a question from Hossam Aldin. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's basically, what about me and AI making deductions about principles and making comparisons and conclusions about unexpected consequences and correlations. For me in physics, we make deductions in some fundamental concepts and their association, like that of uncertainty principle and some mathematical notions of infinity. Is this mental deductions a copyright material? So I don't think you can copyright ideas, right? Like that's part of some of the issues that we're facing there, that we're struggling with. You can't really copyright that, and this is kind of where we're at an interesting turning point in the industrial this is not an industrial revolution, this is like a different kind of AI revolution that we're facing right now. But I think the turning point is essentially that we're going from manual labor basically being sort of a distinguishing factor. And this is actually something that Geoffrey Hinton said in the interview as well, when he was asked what's a good job to kind of do as AI takes over all of the intellectual jobs, and he said, become a plumber. Because he's like, we're still going to need plumbers. AI is not going to be able to have the fine grained abilities to do that. I thought that was quite hilarious. But yeah, so to kind of help you here, I think the question that you're asking is a little bit not just copyright, but maybe plagiarism as well. So I think this is where it gets interesting. If you're not doing the mental work yourself, if you're not doing the deductions and the creative parts of it, is that still your thought because somebody else has thought it? Or in this case, the AI has maybe made the deduction for you and has made that thinking for you. And that, of course, can be a little bit problematic because
for now, maybe
for now, maybe in the future it'll be a different view on things because we're kind of rethinking how copyright is done. And this is something we talked about in the past as well, like the whole basis of copyright. And I wrote about this in a consensus tutorial that I wrote, which is kind of this idea of if you're caring about copyright, back in the day, the where it came from was basically people cared about getting paid. So back then, when copyright was originally incepted, the whole idea was that you could get paid for your work instead of somebody else getting paid for that work. So that was literally where copyright came from. So this is really, really interesting. But I think one of the things that Reza brings up here, doesn't AI erode our critical thinking skills? How can we keep our voices as we let AI permeate more and more into our research practices? I think that's an important question, specifically because, some people, I posted a while ago and so did other people, this MIT study that everyone has seen, I think, at this point with the researchers. And, you get some flack for posting that. But I'm sorry, I actually spent some time reading that article. And there are things in that study that definitely give you some food for thought. Sure, you can criticize the methodology and everything. And I think everyone can do that, right? And people say, but it's not peer reviewed. But come on, in our field in AI, you publish it on arXiv before it gets through peer review. So again, I don't think these are very valid criticisms in that point. And it is important to kind of think about what these things do. But I do think it's important for us to think about in terms of training, how do we still make sure we do the basics of training? And then, of course, also understanding, what does it mean for us in terms of understanding the core skills of something? In the future, it might just be the finding is the important part. Like what I said before, going to Perplexity, being able to trust the output of Perplexity so that you can create an SOP essentially, which then becomes your project in another LLM. What's my skill at that point? My skill is in that workflow is just thinking about the problem. So it's the skill is identifying the problem, and then I guess validating the output, where you're kind of looking at the output in Perplexity and you're saying, yeah, this is how I would do it, or something's wrong here. So having that critical thinking ability is still super important, because otherwise you're giving bogus instructions to the AI, and then whatever comes out as an output is not actually going to be useful for you. So super important to kind of think about that stuff. Anyways, I've like gone off on a total rant here, Vugar. So feel free to chime in and be like,
no,
okay.
Yeah, I can sign right under what you just told, because this question is relevant one, but I think it will be more relevant in coming years when we have super intelligence or AGI. Because
Yes.
right now there is no AI tool that can do and write PhD level research. But if we will have that,
Yeah.
if we will have an AI tool which can do the same level research
Yeah.
as a legal scientist, as a legal economist or a physicist or cosmologist, I don't know, whoever, if AI will start to do that, then we will have this concern really.
Mhm.
This will be a huge concern.
Yeah.
This question will be relevant. I think we can start wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah. I think we gotta go soon. People gotta go have lunch in our time. On your
Yes.
time, I think is like dinner time soon.
Dinner time, yes.
But yeah, I think one more question we had here from Monica that said, with the revolution of AI and with the growing pace in every sector, do you think humans, as humans, will be left with anything to think or act other than eating and sleeping? This is a super good question. Thank you so much for posting that. It's also kind of aligned with some of the stuff that I think Geoffrey Hinton was asked in this interview, which is essentially, will we become obsolete? And I think this is the existential fear that everyone dreads with AI becoming so smart and super intelligence being around the corner. It's just like, okay, well, if that's the case, like, what do we actually do? And I think a lot of it is rethinking about our ability to evaluate, be critical, and be really good at reflecting on the things that matter to us. Yes, I think with this revolution, a lot of what happens is it will make a lot of our lives way easier. And with that
For sure.
happening, we then need to focus on other things. Yeah, it is a realignment. So if you have kids and you're worried about their future and what's going to come, I think the
Yes.
important thing is not to just worry, but to actively have these discussions with your kids as they're trying to prepare for a future where, the things that they've traditionally been trained for might not be as important anymore, because a lot of it will shift and change in the way how quickly this is developing. I think the important thing will be to position yourselves somewhat intelligently as, or right now is the time to do that, as a person that helps build safe, responsible, and ethical AI. Because just ignoring it and running away from it's not going to make it more ethical. And if you leave the space to other people, I think it's actually dangerous, and we might end up with a doomsday scenario after all, right? So it is really important for the big thinkers and the people that feel like they can bring about change, people with a philosophical background and that think about values and moral understandings. I think it's really important for them to enter that conversation and to go into the tech sector and to bring about that change. It's not enough to just kind of let it be and kind of deal with that. So I think Monica, comment on that. As a dean of humanities, we're facing domain specialists and face problems in the AI legality, specifically in finding IPRs in the era of AI. That's true. But I do think, again, there's a huge opportunity for people with that training and that background to become part of that change. Now more than ever, for anyone that's educated and that is willing to give some critical thought, it should not be the era of the tech specialist taking over and just doing something that makes the most money, even though that is currently a tendency that we're seeing because we're stuck in the system of capitalism, right? But I do think it is time for critical thinkers to enter the conversation and maybe to push for some more nuanced conversations that we can hopefully have there with people. Vugar, do you want to add anything? Otherwise, I would say, we can wrap this up for today.
No, for sure. Yes, please do
Maybe,
that. I think next time we will do a little bit more
yeah,
and more coverage. And I'm really thankful to all our to all who watch our today's session. Thank you for
great
your
questions
question.
today.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
really great questions. Thanks for all the engagement. That was fantastic. We do want to leave you with Now I have it in here twice. Oh, Lennart, learn how. I need an AI to actually click on these things for me, because like over putting these. Okay, there's one QR code. It's fine enough. Oh, this is actually the wrong one. This is a great thing too, but I think this is the one you want in case you want to learn more how to do stuff with AI research tools. The other one is specifically for UX designers, which is happening next Monday. So of course you're more than welcome to pop in there as well. But this is the one where Vugar and I talk about AI research tools, and we help you cut your stress in half with some of these tutorials. And like I said, we're working on a future version of that. If you enjoyed the show today, then and if you want more content like this, then we would be very, very happy if you could do 3 things for us to support the show. First, you can hit subscribe in your podcast app, as this will be made live in a podcast app, so you never miss an episode. It takes just a second, makes a huge difference for us in helping others discover the show. Second, if you found value in today's discussion, please leave us a rating, a like, a thumbs up, a review, maybe a comment on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, we would really appreciate a comment. Your feedback helps us improve the show and helps new listeners find us. Finally, connect with us on social media. You can find me at Lennart Nacke. You can find Vugar by Googling or looking for Vugar Ibrahimov. He writes on several Medium, mainly Medium, also on YouTube, very active. So you can find him there, also on X and some of the other networks, and me as well. And we're happy there to share AI insights that you won't find anywhere else. We thank you so much for participating. It was awesome having you here today. Have a wonderful day.